Live from the Washington, D.C. area, it's the Inside Scoop, Emerald Planet. All the ecology news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's your host, Executive Director of the Emerald Planet, Dr. Sam Lee Hancock.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you from Washington, D.C. in the United States as we're looking around the globe to those 1,000 best practices in 144 different nations, looking for the ways that we can make a difference as we move towards 2050. And we have a gentleman representing, actually two gentlemen joining us that are representing a community in South Africa. It's actually a national model program and looking at risk communities and how that we can provide all the basic infrastructure plus the food, the fuel, the fiber that's going to be needed as we go forward towards 2050. I have sitting right beside me in the studio, this is Joel Tjornehoj, who is the president of what's called Hope in South Africa. And we're going to play off of that name, Joel, throughout this television broadcast. And coming all the way from South Africa, we're welcoming Ovetin Ferris, who is the International Liaison. Also, he is the manager for the Richmond Community Center in Richmond, South Africa. And Ovi, as you go by, welcome to the Emerald Planet.
Thank you very much, sir.
Glad to have you here. I'm going to start off with Joel, and then Ovi, we're going to be coming right to you, okay? Joel, tell us a little bit about the evolution and development of what's called Hope in South Africa.
Well, Hope in South Africa started about 9 years ago when a small group of individuals in Maryland decided that they wanted to do something good in South Africa. And after contacting some people in South Africa as to where we should go, we came upon Richmond. Figured that we could at least do a soup kitchen there, so we set up a soup kitchen and then started to get to know the people and listening to the problems in Richmond and trying to decide where we could help. And that's where we branched out into educational programs for HIV/AIDS, fetal alcohol, and then ultimately found the space at a communities at some buildings in Richmond, created a community center where we run music programs. We continue to do our soup kitchen with a bakery, a community garden, recreational programs, a computer lab, and we continue to do the educational programs there as well.
I tell you, you're just really doing so many integrated things, and at the same time, you worked on sanitation and water and a library and all these other kinds of fantastic things. And if we can bring up, there it is. Let's put this on full view so we can see the town of Richmond and what's called the Northern Cape of South Africa. This is really a very beautiful community, Joel. Yes. And Ovi, you're coming in from South Africa. And tell us a little bit about Richmond in South Africa and how you're reaching out not only to the citizens there, but also other communities within this, what's called the Karoo region of South Africa.
Richmond is a very small community, and we are very close to each other, and the fact that we struggle in Richmond is because of poverty and job creation in Richmond. There's a lot of youth that don't have jobs, and what we try to establish as an organization is that what the program that we do here, although we are in a small community, we don't want to, the type of programs that we want to work out here, we don't want to keep it here like the HIV/AIDS education, the fetal alcohol education and so on. We expand it to Colesberg and Nova and DR so that the people get a basic information about HIV and AIDS as well as fetal alcohol. We work in the schools there with Love Life. We partner up with local stakeholders like Love Life, which is an organization that the government is running, so that we can help them support other communities in terms of HIV/AIDS education as well as fetal alcohol. So that's the way that we expand our program that we are running throughout the Richmond Karoo, so that the information that we have in Richmond, we don't hold it here, but we actually expand it to the broader community in the Upper Karoo that we have here in the Northern Cape.
Well, I think it's fantastic what you're doing, and we're looking at some of the photographs that was shared with us. I tell you, these are just really handsome young people that you have within your community, Ova. So thank you for sharing. Joel, what is the main goals of having the program Hope in South Africa in this Karoo region of South Africa?
Our first goal was from our mission statement was that we want to empower the communities to enable the citizens to be healthy and active in their communities. But really we've focused on developing young leaders within the community. And that means spending a lot of time with Ova and the rest of his staff there to go through staff development, training programs to give them education on HIV/AIDS, on fetal alcohol, to give them basic business skills, how to use Excel, how to use Word, give them technology information so that they can learn how to use computers. And I think it's very important that they learn that they are part of an international organization. So they are comfortable in dealing with us here in the States and writing reports, all the very basic things. And then the second thing is developing young leaders. Go to those 8, 9, 10-year-old boys and girls who come to the center. First of all, make sure that they have a healthy diet. We give them some good food. And then we also, as we'll discuss further, is we give them technology training. We have them in our children's library hearing stories. And we let them play in a nice, safe environment. Music, arts and crafts, all sorts of things.
Yeah, and I noticed that you've really worked on outfitting the library within the community center, and I understand now the community center has become one of the largest employers in the whole community of Richmond.
Absolutely. That we grew in our evolution. We grew from a staff of just a few, and now we have a staff of over 20 at the community center, which is wonderful, and Ova is the lead of that staff.
I think it's fantastic. And of course, you have a very active board within the United States and the Washington, D.C. region, so this is great. Ova, what kind of local support are you getting from Richmond and environs there in South Africa? And also, what is some of the leadership that you have, and why have you selected these specific individuals to provide leadership for the program there in Richmond?
The type of support that we have, that we as an organization receive in Richmond is the various stakeholders from the government institutions like the police, the teachers, the Department of Education, Department of Social Services, as well as Ubuntu Municipality. The buildings that we are using is part of Ubuntu Municipality. They gave us these buildings to run the community center for the community as we actually do. And all of the type of programs that we do, like the educational programs, we try to link it in with the schools, which is Department of Education. And all of the social programs that we do here, like we do sports programs during the weeks, the music program as mentioned, the library, the computer lab, the soup kitchen, and so on. We try to link it to the various departments so that we can get the support that they can actually give us to drive our programs more broadly for the children that we work with. Our young leaders, as myself as a leader out of the community, I grew up here in Richmond, and I'm driving the program with Hope in South Africa for my community. That's why I'm very passionate in doing this, and that's why the organization is passionate in terms of getting the high school students to work with them to become responsible citizens in terms of being leaders of the community. So we identify young leaders in schools. So between the grades of grade 11 and grade 12, we identify students which are very positive about themselves, very positive in terms of making change in the community. And that's how we actually approach them, because we deliver HIV education curriculum in schools. And when we graduate one of those students, we actually encourage them to be part of the program that we are doing. So that's how we identify young leaders in the community so that they can be local based and so that they can have a passion in terms of building the community, which is Richmond.
Well, I think it's really fantastic work you're doing, and when you see the young leaders are working together, it looks like you have a number of females that are taking active leadership, and even in your soccer programs, you have a number of females that are involved in that. But Joel, looking at what you're doing, what kind of best practices, as far as say food, water, sanitation, public health, these kinds of things are coming out of this program that may be able to replicate in other parts of South Africa and across the whole continent of Africa itself?
Well, I think that we spend a lot of time just trying to figure out how to accomplish our goals best. And we want the children to come to the center to be healthy. And one of the easiest things to do is when they come and they're going to eat, before they eat, they sit down, they have to wash their hands. They have to wash their hands well. It is just a very simple thing that makes a huge difference in the lives of these children. We want them to have a healthy diet. So we reached out and we said, well, we need to have fresh fruits and vegetables going into their food. It's very difficult to get that inexpensively in the Karoo, especially in Richmond. So we decided to build a community garden. Just right down the list, when we did the different educational programs, the HIV/AIDS and the fetal alcohol program, we reached out to people to the organizations that are leaders in the field and said, bring in your ideas, help us in this small community. It's something that they weren't always used to doing. They go to the big cities, and to develop programs specific for small rural towns in South Africa was different for them, and we've worked with them, and I think it is something that we will then, and we're hoping to, be able to take to other communities in South Africa.
Ova, we're going to lose you just in a few seconds, so we have about 30 seconds. What are you experiencing that you think can be carried forward from Richmond to other parts of South Africa that's very important that you're learning there, best practices that you can carry to the other communities?
I think basically it's because the type of struggle that we struggle here in Richmond is there's a lot of communities that struggle with the same problem that we are struggling, which is poverty, which is job creation, and so on. So what we can carry out with other communities.
Ovi, we're going to lose you. We're running out of time. We have Joel Tjornehoj and Ovi Ferris, both working with Hope in South Africa as we look around the globe to create the Emerald Planet.
These rats were playing in the woods. Wanted some matches and that's no good. Listen to smoke before you give it a try.
Only you.
Don't play with matches. Don't play with fire. Cause there's nothing very funny about ripped off money. Nothing very nice on a homeless mind. So if a gorgeous force is what you desire, don't play with matches. Don't play with fire.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Fire.
Why don't you just wash your car at home?
When I wash my car, everything runs down the street and down into the storm drains. With all the chemicals in the soaps and waxes, the last thing I want to do is poison my own drinking water. At least here, it's all contained and recycled on site. That's why I also take my car in for oil changes instead of doing it myself. I might take a chance on spilling stuff. You know what the best part is?
What?
More time to kick back and watch the game.
How far would you go to protect the planet?
I want you to build an ark.
Here we go. Okay, that's good. Oh, okay. Ow!
Maybe there's another way.
People, the flood is imminent!
Is it too much to ask for a little precipitation?
Go to fightglobalwarming.com to find out what you and your community can do to reduce global warming pollution.
Somewhere around the world, there are men and women of the armed forces risking their lives, helping rebuild communities after natural disasters, collecting toys for needy children, tutoring kids in school. These are your sons and daughters who work to keep us safe, secure, and free. dedicated men and women who put their country first.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet, come to you from Washington, D.C. in the United States as we look around the globe in 144 different nations, looking for those 1,000 best practices, the technology, services, and products are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And as we head to 2050 and a planet with almost 9 billion new people on the planet, what are we going to be able to do to take care of all these new folks and at the same time to bring about an increasing quality of life? And so as we move from 7 billion to 9 billion, the challenge is not just to exist on the planet, but actually to enhance the quality of life. And we have someone who is actually working at this to integrate sport into the whole notion of food and basic infrastructure. This is Beth McGill. She is the founder of what's called Grassroot Soccer HIV/AIDS Prevention Program. She's also a member of the Board of Directors of Hope in South Africa. And sitting right beside me, a special guest, is Joel Tjornehoj, who is the president of Hope in South Africa, and he's in the Washington, D.C. Headquarters here. So Beth is coming in by Skype, and welcome to the Emerald Planet.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and we have some great photographs here from about the soccer program that you actually set up in Richmond, South Africa. But tell us a little bit about the important projects in Richmond and why soccer.
Excellent. Let me just start with, the World Cup was here, and you can just see the presence of soccer and how it can engage an entire world into one thing. This is why we use soccer. You bring out a soccer ball in the community of Richmond, and kids will come flocking. It's an easy way to get kids to our center, engaged, and then it gives us the opportunity to teach a little bit of education on HIV.
Well, the whole thing about bringing them out and engaging them, I want to bring up this photograph we have of Richmond, the town. Then also we're going to put in some of the soccer shots. But I know that you've been using this in order to engage the young people there. Tell us a little bit about the communications opportunities and the training that you're doing. I watched one of your videos, and it's very clever how you integrate, every aspect of your educational program actually into soccer play and soccer practice.
Yes, so basically Grassroot Soccer is an HIV prevention organization that uses the power of soccer to educate, inspire, and mobilize the community. We use Grassroot Soccer, we train coaches, teachers, and peer educators to deliver the interactive HIV education. And it's a very powerful program. We bring kids in, and HIV is a very sensitive subject in South Africa and even the world. So it's hard, to bring in, kids to talk about this. So we use soccer as a way to open up the dialogue, to get kids talking. And these interactive games just help really reinforce the messages that we're trying to teach about HIV. Anything from where's your local testing center, and to know your status, and to, and then our hope is for them, as we open up the dialogue, for them to go out back into their community and talk to their family and their friends about this topic.
I know you're really reaching out and educating and bringing in coaches really as teachers for more than just soccer, but looking at the HIV/AIDS and also as role models for the young men and young women within your community. And I know that's one of your missions. So how are you actually accomplishing your mission, and how do you see this interaction with the adults within the community? It's actually aiding in what you're doing in Grassroot Soccer.
So we started this program in 2008, and the first time we were there, everyone's like, who are these people and what are they doing here, and what organization are they with? No one really knew who we were. So we went out and we found local leaders who we thought were leaders. Anywhere from we looked on the soccer pitch, we went to the schools and we found teachers. And we brought these people and we trained them. The training is a week long, it's very intensive. And then after they are trained and graduate, we send them back into their communities to teach. Because we can come in with a book and information, but it's just, they can't really, the South Africans don't really relate to us. And so what we do is we want to take local members that they know and they already have a relationship with and a friendship with, and we want them to teach their peers, and we want them to to own this project. And it's been a huge success. And now I don't know if there's one member in Richmond that doesn't know who Grassroot Soccer is and what we do. When our coaches go to work every day, you'll just see a trail of kids that are starting to run out after them to come to the community center because they love this program. They want to engage, they want to participate, and then the soccer just also helps. It's an added bonus to their day.
Well, I know when I was working in Australia and Orange, New South Wales, and I was doing consulting work, but also was a master teacher there at the same time, I'd ride my bicycle in, and of course this is getting near the the Tour de France. And so one morning I went out and there were 6 kids in front of my house waiting for me to get on my bike. They followed me. The next day we had 9, and it just kept multiplying. I had about 25 to 30 kids that was following me to school every day. And it was just a fantastic experience because they got engaged, and then we started talking about how you fix a flat and do all these other kinds of things and got to know their family. So I understand what you're doing there, Beth, and it's wonderful work. Joel, why don't you take the next question?
Sure. Beth, what age group do you work with, and do you work with adults at all? And where do you do this? What outlets do you use to bring the Grassroots Soccer message into Richmond and beyond?
Excellent question, Joel. Right now, we normally work with the ages 10 to 18 in the middle and high schools. We feel like this is a good age to start opening up the conversation, and it's just about before they start experimenting sexually and whatnot. So we want to get this message into their brain and help them to live an HIV-free risk life. We do not offer education programs right now for adults, but we do offer a World AIDS Day event that we host every year, which gives the entire community an opportunity to come to the center to participate in 1 or 2 grassroots soccer activities, and then also an opportunity to be tested, because that is a very important part of HIV. We just you need to know your status, and we want to give that opportunity to anyone in the community. Right now, it's something we're working towards reaching adults. Right now, our curriculum is mainly for children, but we did have an opportunity once where we went into the local prison, actually, and we taught a week-long course there, and it was a huge success. So we're making efforts to reach adults, but right now our main focus is children and starting early and educating them.
Now, looking at the numbers that you have, I noticed we got this image here of these 3 little cheeky guys that are probably some of your soccer players, and being both at the same time good sportsmen and being challenging the teacher. But how many children do you have, and what are some of the successes that you're realizing there in Richmond, South Africa?
Yeah. So we didn't really start our monitoring. So we started in 2008, but we didn't start our monitoring until about 2012. But we now have some hard numbers. Since 2012, we've actually reached 3,500 people, and this is including children and adults through the classroom to community Hope in South Africa sponsored events. And then to date, we have graduated 1,468 students through our 11 practice curriculum, which usually takes about 4 to 6 weeks to complete. So it's a huge success, and we're hoping to reach 1,500 in 2014 alone.
Well, these are great numbers you're talking about. What are some of the best practices that have evolved out of what it is that you're doing that not only you can share in the community surrounding Richmond up in the Northern Cape, but also could be replicated, say, in other parts of South Africa or even across the African continent?
Yeah. So like I said, we are here to educate the youth on the sensitive topic of HIV, and it's a very tough topic to talk about. And so our main goal is to get them to open up and to talk about this and to not hide and not be ashamed of HIV. So one of our practices that we use is what's called a coach's story. So we want to create a relationship right off the bat between our students and our coaches. So our coaches will go in and they'll tell a very personal story of why they're involved with or why they're so passionate about grassroots soccer and why they're involved in this program. And it is an incredible activity to experience. One of the classrooms I was in, after everyone stopped crying from the coach's story, after what they shared, the kids started raising their hands to share their story, and that's exactly what we want. And once we create that bond between the kids, the rest of the practices just fall into place. Everyone's participating, everyone's sharing, and it just, you really hone in on the idea that this is, HIV starts with talking about it. HIV prevention, starts with sharing.
Well, Joel, looking at the food we had in this last slide, having traveled almost tip to tip of South Africa and then into Botswana and other places, this is really making me very hungry. So now I know why you're traveling back and forth so often on the food. But why don't you ask the next question of Beth, please?
Well, Beth, Grassroots Soccer really is a unique program. What do you see that makes Grassroots Soccer unique?
What makes Grassroots Soccer unique? There's several practices. I spent a year over in South Africa and I got to really witness it within the schools, and it's just the energy. The coaches come into the classroom and it starts off with dancing and singing, and the kids are just so involved, and they're very excited when they see our coaches. I'm a biology major, and HIV is very complicated. And somehow, Grassroots Soccer has made this incredible curriculum that breaks down this complicated disease and infection to something that a 10-year-old can understand and remember. So they have just the repetition of each message and how they deliver it, which is not just reading a book and sitting in one place. It's standing up, it's being active, it's dribbling a soccer ball, and incorporating all these things to really to deliver their message and their information to help these kids live an HIV-free life. And it's incredible to see.
Beth, we're going to lose you right now. Thank you for being with us. This is Beth McGill. She is the founder of Grassroots Soccer, HIV/AIDS Prevention Program, member of the Board of Directors of the Hope in South Africa. And Joel Tjornehoj is sitting right beside me, President of Hope in South Africa. And thank you for being with us as we look at this very innovative program as we create the Emerald Planet.
Saving for retirement might be easy for some folk, but for others, it might take a little more work. And for those who haven't started, there are still things you can do to catch up.
Oh, that is good news.
Like getting out from underneath past debt. And don't get wrapped up with high-interest credit cards.
Get you some eyes.
Be diversified with your investments. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Your financial goals are not out of reach. The choice is clear. For a happy ending, choose to save.
Everyone with alcohol and drug addiction is in the same boat. With treatment, you can find solid ground. For drug and alcohol information and treatment referral for you or someone you know, call 1-800-662-HELP.
Dude, are you sure you want this tattoo? Because just do it.
Some mistakes in life are permanent. Like hearing loss. To learn how to protect your hearing, visit asha.org.
You've probably heard about heart disease, but did you know that it's the #1 killer of women nationwide? Heart disease claims more lives each year than breast cancer, lung cancer, or strokes combined. But there are steps you can take to protect yourself against it. For more information on how you can prevent heart disease, contact your local American Heart Association or visit their website at www.americanheart.org.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you from Washington, D.C. in the United States as we're looking around the globe for those 1,000 best practices, the technology, services, products, and of course the people that are making a difference in the 21st century. As we go to a planet that will be soon 9 billion souls, how are we going to be able to take care of the food, the fuel, the fiber, and all the basic infrastructure, plus healthcare and education that all these people are going to need? And we have someone who's combining education, agriculture, and her very active participation in Rotary International and her own home Rotary Club. This is Estelle Jacobs, is coming all the way from Colesberg in South Africa. She's the project manager for the Fetal Alcohol Spectrum Disorder Program. She's in Richmond in Northern Cape, South Africa. And sitting right beside me is the president of Hope in South Africa in Washington, D.C. headquarters. This is Joel Tjornehoj. And Estelle, welcome to Washington, D.C. from South Africa.
Good evening, Sam, and thank you for inviting me.
We're really glad to have you, and I was looking through this incredible resume that you have and all the work that you're doing. You're one very busy person.
I am, yes, that's true.
Well, tell us a little bit about this Fetal Alcohol Spectrum Disorder Program, FASD, in Richmond. And I understand you're in the Northern Cape of South Africa. And welcome again to Emerald Planet, coming to you from Washington, D.C.
Thank you very much. Yes, South Africa consists of 9 provinces. And the Northern Cape province is a very arid and the most sparsely populated province in South Africa. Our province is poor and do not have a well-developed infrastructure and a lot of mining activities and to create jobs and wealth for the people of the Northern Cape. The result is a huge percentage of unemployment in all the small towns in our region. And the misuse of government grants lead to the abuse of alcohol and teenage pregnancies and teenagers who are pregnant and mothers who also abuse alcohol without realizing the damage that they are causing their unborn babies.
Now, looking at the this FASD and the program that you're actually working in conjunction with Hope in South Africa, what are some of the most important components of this, and how do you actually reach out to the citizens in the Richmond area as well as your own hometown, Colesberg, and some other communities within that area?
Yeah, our main aim is to make our communities aware of FASD, and that is, the effect that alcohol being taken during pregnancies have on the fetus. And FASD has been a very wide spectrum, from negative influences on the fetus, from growth deficiencies to severe brain damage. And we strive through a campaign of awareness to get to the point where we shall be able to say that we have a FASD-free community. We rely on finances and dedicated people to really help us to reach those aims, and then mothers to really believe in what we are telling them.
Now, looking at, I'm going to add this question to our discussion. How involved is your local provincial government as well as maybe the national government in this particular program that you're working on, Estelle?
Unfortunately, at this stage, the government and the provincial government is not involved in the way we would have liked it to be. The only way that they are involved is by setting up law that alcohol might not be bought from the age of before 18 years old. But you know what? Taverns are legal, illegal, children buy alcohol, it's really not something that one can we can rely on the government to help us with that. So it is really important for us to make sure that that the message gets spread, and that if somebody would take alcohol, that they make an informed decision about that, and that it's not because of ignorance.
As you know, we have Joel Tjornehoj sitting here with me as our special guest, President of Hope in South Africa. Joel, why don't you ask the next question?
Sure. Do you plan to expand the program outreach, and what new communities are you looking at? And also, how is your Rotary Club, the Colesberg Rotary Club, involved with FASD work that you are doing?
Joel, the Rotary Club, my local Rotary Club is informed, is really part of what we work with, and they are, in a way, they realize sorry, excuse me. Let me just get to my place here. You see, what happened was that the Rotary Club is part of what we are working with in our communities, and they reach out to the clinics, as well as they fill their venues where we used to do the training and the accommodation. They are part of that.
Yeah,
and
well,
the first part of your question?
Yes, that's true, Estelle, and it's very important that Rotary involved. When you have an organization that's 34,000 clubs and 1.4 million members, and then having your active club there in Colesberg in the Northern Cape, that's really very important. Who are some of the other stakeholders in your program, Estelle, besides the Rotary Club?
The stakeholders are definitely HISA, who is the funder of the most work that we are doing here. And you know what, we would not have been able to do anything if we couldn't rely on HISA. And then another stakeholder is the two NGOs that we actually found to do the work, and that is FAR in Cape Town, that is Foundation for Alcohol-Related Research, and FASFAX, who does that in Worcester, so we could get our training and our resources from them. And then we are really relying on our people that does the work in the communities, our field workers. Yes, and I think the Rotary clubs that we are engaged with are really one of the stakeholders as well.
Well, I tell you, I think it's fantastic. How do you address this FASD within your local communities, and what kind of lessons learned do you have that as program manager you can share with other communities around South Africa and Africa? And then also one of your other activities is the project manager of this Hantam Community Education Trust for the Rural Farm School, which I find very intriguing as you incorporate that in what you're doing. So what are some of these best practices, and how does all this fit together?
All the trained participants were sent into the communities to spread the message after they were trained by FASFAX and by FAR. And they had to spread the message in a way that their specific community would accept that. So between 2011 and 2013, we made use of major awareness campaigns like the Industrial Theatre that was created by FAR. This is a mobile theatre with professional actors telling the story about a girl from a rural community who moved to the city to look for work. But instead of getting that, she fell prey to prostitution and alcohol abuse. An unstable relationship and unwanted pregnancy followed. A baby was born with fast features and problems. This was a very successful effort, as the audience that actually looked at the play could identify with the problems in their community. As a result, the trained field workers created their own play based on the story they saw and used this to drive home the message of PAS. And then workshops with videos and songs on CD for the illiterate and the semi-literate farm workers were made available to use for us to use by fast tracks, and we used it with success in the Hantam and the Merriman farming areas. The trainers received a flip chart and a pamphlet and used it as resources, and find that they were very helpful as well. And then Bianca is our fast worker in Richmond, and she make use of the flip chart with the Kariki people, who are the nomads of the Karoo. And it works very well with them. And we have to work in towns as well as in farming communities. And the approach is very different, as the dynamics of the families are very different. You know, in Hantam, we work with farm workers on 30 farms and 92 families, and they consist of fathers and mothers, children. And 5 field workers do the farm visits 3 days a week, on which they consult with the families and reinforce the message of FAS. In the last 3 years, we have proof of 13 babies who were born FAS-free in the Hantam. Now you can ask me, now what happened before the 3 years? And that is that we have children who's got FAS, and that we had to make a plan and create a learning support class for them to guide them through their school years. At the age of 17, they can exit the school, the program, and then they can apply for the farm worker apprenticeship program or the hospitality course that that's available for them. And you know what? That makes them ready to go into the workplace, so they will not be a burden to their families or the government. Now that the message is out there, we aim to introduce the healthy mother, healthy baby phase. And in this phase, we try to guide the mother to connect with her baby from 0 to 3 years. And that is in order to help him to reach the different milestones that was not possible in the past. And in the townships, there are thousands of people, and mostly single-parent households, which is very different from the farm situation. And it's child-headed households and children in care of guardians, with a very few good male role models. And because the fathers go to the cities to look for jobs and make money. So the field workers have a far more difficult task here to bring the message to the people, as it is not a contained group they're working with.
Estelle, we're going to lose you in about 15 seconds. Be quick. What do you see for the growth of your program over the next 5 or 10 years?
Okay.
Got to be quick.
It's one child at a time, but we want to have a FAS-free community and a FAS-free South Africa. So we will carry on to do what we have to do.
That's a fantastic summary. Thank you for being with us. This is Estelle Jacob. She's the project manager for the Fetal Alcohol Spectrum Disorder Program. She's in Richmond and Northern Cape of South Africa. And sitting right beside me is Joel Tjornehoj as we look around the globe to create the Emerald Planet.
I need a job.
Necesito trabajo.
I would like to speak English better.
Me gustaría hablar inglés mejor.
I want to be a U.S. citizen.
Quisiera ser ciudadano de los Estados Unidos.
For over 35 years,
Por más de 35 años,
the Hispanic Committee of Virginia has been serving our community.
el Comité Hispano de Virginia ha estado sirviendo a nuestra comunidad.
Job training and placement,
Capacitación, ayuda para conseguir trabajo,
education for children and adults,
educación para niños y adultos,
immigration, naturalization, and medical referrals.
ayuda para los procesos de inmigración y naturalización y orientación sobre médicos
Are a small part of what we do.
son solo una pequeña parte de lo que hacemos.
For help, information, or to volunteer,
Para ayuda, información o para ofrecerse como voluntario,
contact the Hispanic Committee of Virginia,
comuníquese con el Comité Hispano de Virginia,
helping everyone participate more fully in American society.
ayudando a todos a participar plenamente en la sociedad norteamericana.
Hey Lena, where's yours?
Would you notice if you were missing half your kidney function
According to the National Kidney Foundation, 20 million people have chronic kidney disease, and 20 million more may be at risk and not even know it. Anyone with high blood pressure, diabetes, or family history of chronic kidney disease is at risk. Early diagnosis is vitally important. To get the whole story, talk to your doctor and visit the National Kidney Foundation at kidney.org or call for a free brochure. Because when it comes to chronic kidney disease, you might not know the half.
To the Emerald Planet as we come to you from Washington, D.C. and the United States, and we're looking around the globe in 144 different nations, looking for those 1,000 best practices, the technologies, the services, and the products as we go through the 21st century. I'm Dr. Sam Hancock. I'm the President, Executive Director of Emerald Planet, and also the Director and host for the Emerald Planet TV, as we come to you on a weekly basis to bring you, as we call it, the best of the best projects that we can find around the globe. And we're focused on South Africa, and specifically a national model program called Hope in South Africa. And I have sitting right beside me Joel Tjornehoj, who is the president of the Hope in South Africa. And he's located in Washington, D.C. And then we have coming in by Skype is Eric Schwers, who is the liaison for the Richmond Computer Laboratory, and also he is the member of the Hope in South Africa Board of Directors. So Eric is wearing multiple hats, and welcome to be with us by Skype, Eric. And thank you for sharing about this computer laboratory. So tell us a little bit about the computer laboratory and why Richmond in South Africa.
Yeah, good evening, Dr. Hancock. Thanks for having me on. The why of Richmond is sort of interesting. I have been to South Africa many times, and I kind of fell in love with the country. And like a lot of other people, I was looking for something to do, a way to give back. And a friend of mine who happens to also be involved with Hope in South Africa said, "Hey, we're looking for someone to come in and help us develop a computer lab for the kids." And he really didn't tell me much more than that, and just sort of said, if that's interesting for you, head off on your way and give it a whirl and see what you can do. And so I sort of backtracked a little bit and got some more information on what the lab would look like and what we might need to do. And then about 2 years ago, we got it set up.
Well, looking at Richmond in South Africa, it's a small community. You have the opportunity to really look at the dynamics and the change that's going on as you're doing it. So it's almost immediate gratification and feedback on the work that you're doing there. But in a small community like that, why the training and the understanding as far as the internet and computers are concerned?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and it's one I get a lot. I think first and foremost, there's no arguing that Richmond is lacking in some services, and that those things need to be handled. However, my hope and my real passion for this is to work with these kids to light a fire, to give them something else to do, some sort of hope that they might have outside of the everyday trials and tribulations that they face. And I think technology is a great way to do that. And so, my hope, again, my plan is to bring them into the computer lab on a regular basis, as we've been doing, try to teach them basic computer skills, and then, we're working them up to a point where they can get out on the internet and then, dream a little bit, and again, try to find that spark for themselves. In a town like Richmond, where they may not have a lot of opportunity to see, life beyond them or beyond Richmond, I think it's important that they have access to computer skills and have a way to sort of reach the outside world.
Well, looking at Richmond, what you're doing is you're putting them at, in a sense, the center of the universe, particularly their universe, and reaching out. And these shoes, I know, have a very interesting story. But through the computer laboratory, I understand that you're able to reach out and find out from the youth and adults coming in all the other needs that they may have, and also to create a dialogue and to interact and exchange ideas and allow them to think and dream and grow and look way beyond the horizon of this beautiful community, Richmond. So what do you see through the teachers that you have and the long-term impact that they are having on the lives of people there in Richmond through the computer laboratory?
It's another great question, and it's one that I talk a lot about with the board on, what does our impact look like, and how do we measure something like that? And I think it's a little bit difficult to say. The timeline on a project like this is actually quite long. So we have, the bulk of the people that come in, the bulk of the kids that come into the lab are between 6 and probably 12 years old, and so to really figure out how effective we are, and if teaching them technology skills is a springboard into something else in their life, it's going to take a while for us to figure that out. But we're already getting good feedback from our coaches there who are working with the kids in the lab, and from the educators in the town of Richmond itself. And so I think, again, that timeline, I'm trying to figure out how effective we're going to be. It's going to take us a little bit, but our hope is to give all these kids a basic skill set so that they can type. They know the parts of a computer. They know how to turn one on. They're well versed in getting on the internet. They can use Microsoft Office products. We're teaching them basic skills on iPads. We're trying to use all this technology to bolster their general learning skills, so they do things like math, reading, and those sorts of skills on the computers as well.
Well, I tell you, it sounds very comprehensive, Eric, and thank you for sharing about that. Joel, why don't you ask the next question?
Eric, how does Hope in South Africa engage with the local citizens to teach computer skills?
Well, we're really lucky in that the community center in Richmond, where the computer lab is based, is sort of the center of the town in terms of a lot going on. And so these kids that we see in our computer lab generally walk across the soccer pitch that's part of the community center there. And so the coaches will go out and get them involved and tell them what's going on in the computer lab. And then we get them, to come in and sit with us. We try to run little skills tests with them as they come in to see what kind of computer skills they might have. And we've run the gamut. We found kids that have absolutely no computer skills. And then we found kids that are actually quite proficient, but don't have a lot of access. And so we try to work in between that spectrum. My coach in the office, she's also gone out in the community and made sure that the kids in the various schools know about the computer lab. She's running particular programs to help kids who need typing skills, those sorts of things. So we're out sort of at a grassroots level trying to make sure that everybody understands the resources that are there. In the next 6 months, my hope is that we'll actually go out beyond the kids and start working with adults in the community who might want to come in at nighttime and start learning computer skills as well.
So you're actually extending the hours. This is really fantastic, and this is some of the lessons learned in many other countries where we've identified the best practices, where you start opening up the schools and the computer laboratory to the adults. And of course that reinforces when the children come home, all of a sudden the adults are learning what their own children are learning, and so they can actually trade off, and it really allows the computer knowledge to then extend to grandma and grandpa and all the other extended family members. Well, what are some of the lessons learned that you've been able to observe by working in this small community, Richmond, in South Africa, that may be able to extend across many other communities in South Africa?
I think one of the biggest lessons that we've learned in the 2 years we've been there is trying to work on a mutually agreed timeline, one that works with the coaches, the staff, and the local community there, and to really make sure that our expectations are in check with the community and with our end users. I would say that's probably the biggest one. When I first opened the lab, I had, I would say, grand plans of really getting everyone very computer proficient in a 5-month time period, and then I wanted to work with higher levels of applications like Rosetta Stone, advanced mathematics, things like that, to try to really bolster the skill sets for the kids. And what I learned is that we have to do it on their timeline. And so what we do is try to put structure around out there that they can then get involved with to learn those skills. But that's probably the biggest one. I think another great lesson learned for me was just trying to find partners out there. You can't do it alone. Technology is expensive. It's changing all the time. And so I really, went out and sort of hit the pavement trying to find other partners who are interested in achieving the same sort of goal.
Now, looking at that, I think you may have answered some of this question already as far as the work that you're doing in Richmond, Eric, but through the classes, I know that you set these very aggressive benchmarks that you wanted to achieve, and you said it really needs to be based on the community and how that we're interacting with them and where they're coming, how prepared or unprepared they are when they come to the school. What are some of the more realistic benchmarks, do you think, Eric, that you've now been able to set after these couple years of working in Richmond that will allow you to take this and then transfer to other communities that are just now starting in the program?
Yep, I think the first thing is just that understanding of what a base skill set looks like and trying to figure out where to put the kids. And so we go through a testing with them to try to figure out how computer proficient they are. And so what I like to do with the coach is try to get about 8 to 10 kids a month coming in and going through that testing so that we're constantly bringing in new people. So that's one of our goals. We try to see about 25 to 30 kids a week on a multiple day basis. So if they come in one time, we consider ourselves to be somewhat successful. But if we get them 2 or 3 days in that week, we consider ourselves to be more successful. And again, I like that number to be about 25 or 30 a week coming into the lab. I think one of the other things that we're really trying to focus on right now that's a benchmark for us is using technology to expand their knowledge and sort of their perspective. And so we're working with a school here in the U.S., which is sort of our sister school. And so we're trying to get the kids online with them at least 2 to 3 times per month so that they've got about a 15-minute session in that time to chat with other kids. And so, it gives them a sort of a view into another kid's life, and they find out that those kids in the United States may not be that different from them. They talk about simple things like, what do you like for dinner? What are you doing after school? And it's a really good interaction for them. So I like that to happen 2 to 3 times per month as well.
I tell you, that's just absolutely great. We're running out of time, Eric, as you know. And I'm going to let Joel ask. It may be the last question, but if you be quick, I do have one more question I'd like to ask. Okay. Joel?
Just the follow-up on that is the best practices. What have you learned from doing this computer lab, and can you take that to other communities in South Africa?
And let's be quick.
Absolutely, it's definitely scalable. Again, I think a best practice is finding partners. We've got a great partner in Intuit Corporation. They help us with all the computers. Going out and talking to the local educators. We've talked to teachers at the high school, the junior high, the elementary school, trying to figure out what their needs are so that we're building a curriculum around their needs, so that we're trying to work with them. I would say, those are sort of our best practices, and those things are definitely transferable into the other locations that we intend to open.
Eric, we're going to lose you right now, so thank you for being with us. This is Eric Schwers, who is a liaison and also a member of the board of directors for the Hope in South Africa. Sitting right beside me is Joel Tjornehoj, who is the president. Joel, thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having us.
Planet.
It's been wonderful. Thank you.
Absolutely fantastic, and did a great job. Thank you as we create